Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, can you be a sci-fi fan and a horror show host? We're going to find out today. Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing Dune Part 1, contrary to the image that I've had up for like 2 weeks saying otherwise.
I just noticed
Welcome.
that 3 minutes ago.
I'm glad you
oh
did.
dear, I've shared it as well, everywhere.
That's funny. Everyone's like, is it out already? How
No,
did they
we're
have a sneak
pre-born.
peek?
We are both abominations. We're already in the future, and we're just coming back to spoil it for you.
Yeah, I've just been hitting the melange a lot, and so I've got these prophetic visions that allow me to see it already.
But are you on the
Anyway,
golden path? Oh wait, that's a little bit too early in the.
yeah. Well, what's your initial impression of this film?
Right. So, as someone who is a fan of Frank Herbert's Dune series and read the book and seen the original, like David Lynch's version will always have a special place in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
They made the mistake of just they should have been two movies, but the kind of rush towards the end, and you're kind of wondering what happened. That's actually originally I originally came in this through an Iron Maiden song, believe it or not.
What?
To Tame a Land of the Peace of Mind album.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Huh.
Great song.
We're getting a performance, everyone.
So, and that was talking about the Gom Jabbar, the Kwisatz Haderach, and all. And I'm reading this, going,
I had no idea.
"What is this about?" Yep. And that's what drew me into, what is this? And then obviously asking about, and there wasn't an internet in those days,
Yeah, yeah.
so I had to go the long, hard way of speaking to people.
It's so tedious.
2
It's
gauges.
the worst.
Then I found out about this book called Dune, and then kind of went on from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice movie. Let's put it like that. I wasn't excited. Like,
Wow.
I didn't go to the cinema to see it. I was like, okay, here we go. I don't know whether it's modern actors or modern filmmaking. Just everything looks so sanitized and bland. There's no.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely had a different initial impression. I
His sweeping vistas, CGI landscapes, everyone looks pretty and clean and.
Well, most of these landscapes are actually practical locations. I mean, they filmed in Saudi Arabia a lot, and I like that's what I like so much about this is it's not just a CGI. Obviously, they have to add some, but they scouted actual locations to make it feel grounded in reality, and they built practical props so that it had that gritty feel to it. In my opinion, which is why I loved it so much.
No, that's
Hey,
sort of
RX Oliver, how you doing?
that's what I appreciated,
Yeah.
because you saw sand under the feet and it wasn't just brushed onto a sound stage, because that's
Yeah,
boring.
when they're like slogging up the dunes, I was like, I've been there. I know what that feels like, and that's exactly what it looks like. It's like a pain in the ass going up dunes. All right, so the details of this is directed by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong or not.
Villeneuve, I think it is.
Villeneuve?
Villeneuve.
Whatever. That works for me. I first became aware of him with Sicario, which I thought was dope as hell. But then Arrival, that's one of my top 10 sci-fi films of all
Is that
time.
with Jodie Foster?
No, that's Contact.
Oh, what? No, it's gone. No, what's her name?
Amy Adams, I think.
Yeah, the solving the mathematical equations.
Yeah.
The aliens. Oh yes.
Doing with space time, and I thought it was
I thought
amazing.
one's very like the other in a lot of ways.
Kind of, yeah, actually. I liked it because it was much more like hard sci-fi and not so much adventure fantasy. And that's why I really appreciate Dennis as a director because he visualizes the universes. And that's why when he was attached on, like Blade Runner, I really like too, but when he was attached onto this, I didn't know his real passion, but I knew that he was a vision based director. And so I knew that he was going to go way hard into visually realizing this universe of Dune. And I think that's really the strength of Dune is that while Frank Herbert isn't the best individual to describe visually what you're going to be seeing, as you're reading the books, it leaves it open to interpretation. So you can get the David Lynch's and you can get the Denis Villeneuve version of it. And though visually they look pretty dramatically different, there's that connective tissue of the background of the novel that connects them so that you can say, okay, well, yes, it looks a little different, but it's still in the same universe and it still feels like this director's version of it.
Yeah,
And he was
I think
obsessed
what
with this.
Frank Herbert did really well is he planted seeds
Hmm.
because the story of Dune itself's not. I mean, warring barons and the chosen one comes along and saves the day.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, blah blah blah. Throw a bit of religion in there too, and also back in the day, Raymond E. Feist is just as guilty of it. Let's take another culture and just pretend they're an alien species,
yeah,
and stupid people won't notice.
yeah.
So he just took Arab culture, and
Hmm.
threw it in, and then he tried to pretend, with the OG Bible, he tried to pretend it was all conflated, but he just actually stole like Benue tribes
Yeah,
and their culture and just put it on screen or put it in words.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that's not, but it's the idea of humanity and where humanity's got to. It's all those threads, which I thought David Lynch's version did a better job at planting those seeds and showing them that you're sort of interested in the world. Where
Right.
this is very, now we're not going to bother with that. We're not going to
That's an
bother.
interesting way to look at it. I never really thought of it in terms of like the saga, as it were,
Mhm.
because I'm ignorant to that. I've only read the first book. So my entire perspective of this is how well did he adapt ostensibly like 60% of the novel into this first version of the film. And I thought with that 60%, because I don't know anything else about the expanded universe,
Mhm.
I thought he did a great job. I mean, he changed things for sure, and he heightened some focuses rather than others that we'll get into here in a minute. But ostensibly, I thought he did a brilliant, brilliant job. And even more, I think, because I haven't seen David Lynch's version since I was a kid, but
Mhm.
I don't remember
I watch it
getting.
like every other year.
Oh,
So,
really? I don't
yeah.
remember the depth. Like, so it does go
It's
into like
not
the.
it's once again, it's like the book. Then how written media and film media are completely different, and
Yeah,
that's you have to have those expectations.
yeah.
But at least because this is all set 10,000 years into our history. This is
Hmm.
the year 10,000 odds. And the idea is that we've already gone through like where we are now with the advent of AI and reliant on machines, and basically humanity's actually gone through that right to the other side. So this is humanity effectively picking itself up after an event called the Butlerian Jihad
Yeah,
against the thinking computer Omnius. So basically, think Skynet. This is humanity's already been through Skynet and already won the future war and done all that,
yeah,
and eventually devolved in a sense back to this feudal, like shogun-esque empire. It's a battling warlords, and it's even though humanity's spanned across the stars, we've degenerated back into that base. And what's the thing that most useful tool? Religion.
yeah.
And the Bene Gesserit were actually created after the final battle, sort of, after the fallout of the Butlerian Jihad. That's where we need to rebuild humanity, and then that's where religion came in, and then human biological weapons.
Yeah.
So we've effectively become biological computers, and then that's where I think David Lynch dropped those little Easter eggs about that, where this movie kind of doesn't. It sort of glosses over all that aspect of it, and
Yeah.
it's very sci-fi. It's very grounded sci-fi focus,
Hmm.
but it's left out, in technology based, but it's left out the human biology,
Yeah.
which is the fascinating part of the Dune saga.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Like
this is only part one, and it's only thing. Part two will really tell the test of time, so
it
it's
has
hard to
to.
make a complete judgment
Yeah.
on this just based on this part. What he does with part two is really going to tell us if he's getting into the meat and bones of this.
Yeah. Well, and that's I think the most important thing to sort of consider when it comes to this part 1 and part 2 is that this is the beginning of the Paul Atreides hero journey. And he even in the Dune novel there's no real actual story arc for his like character arc. He's just like always there and he just realizes he was always there. There's no like struggle or anything like that in my opinion. In this
But Dune
book,
Messiah has been greenlit,
yeah, I know, I can't wait for
and
that.
then we're going to see it.
I'm gonna read that one like next week, and then hopefully I'll have a completely different perspective of the first novel. But I did enjoy it. I think it's a good novel, and I think any adaptation of that novel, even if it's in the version of like Star Wars, is good because I think it is an interesting story. I love the idea of religion and politics and this sort of the meshing of the two when it comes to humanity and controlling humanity, and that's really what this is all about. So I personally really appreciate that. But Dennis really wanted to focus just on Paul and his journey, and that's why we see it in such a different way, this version versus any other version, because everything else is focusing on the conflict overall of the cultures, not so much the individual characters. And realistically, I think it was a good approach, though it does, leave out some integral aspects of the Dune universe that drew people to it in the first place. So, I think it's going to depend on how you perceive this film based on how you perceived his works. Not just the first Dune film, but the scope of the saga overall. And I think that's going to really determine where you land here. So this was screenplay by John Spaeth, Denis Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. It was based, of course, on Frank Herbert's Dune. Cinematography, I just wanted to call out, was Greg Fraser because I thought the visual aspects of this film were breathtaking. I really was sold with the universe they created, and though some of it did look like sort of miniatures and you could tell when there was CGI and stuff, I thought it blended so much better than I expected it to that I forgave any errors or issues. How did you feel about the visual aspect of this?
Well, one thing I got really well was the ornithopters.
Yeah, those are cool.
That was an invention of Frank Herbert that just boggled the mind. Like, what is this dragonfly? Like, it's sort of a plane, sort of a helicopter, but not quite. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that, and then when he managed to blend that using a bit of practical and CGI, that it didn't look like a computer generated image, that got me. But like I said, I think it's just that he's not done anything different from any other sci-fi movie. That's sort of my problem. They all look very similar.
Okay.
Some look a bit more robotic than others.
Right.
But I wasn't seeing anything like groundbreaking, if that makes sense. It looks good. It's pretty. It's it's a sci-fi. Thankfully, the story is, you can follow along the story and get grounded and affinity with the characters. That's what sort of pulls you along. But if you were just relying on the visuals alone, I'd be kind of because it's just been done and done and done.
Arrakis itself, or do you mean like all aspects, like costumes and everything?
Yeah, costumes, characters. It looks as if it's all been done before. That's the thing. I'm not.
Yeah, I could see that about the world at large.
Like, even look at the still suits. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing anything spectacularly different from David Lynch's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not seeing that. The only thing you're seeing is a little bit of updated graphics. Mm-hmm. And once again, I think it's going to be part 2 is really going to be because we haven't really got anything different from the first movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? We've got the first 2 acts of the movie of David Lynch's almost verbatim, apart from a few extra little scenes, and it's just a bit. So you're not getting your mind blown of, oh, right, this is where it's something different. And that's why I preface with saying this is going to be a difficult one to judge. I think it needs to be judged as a whole.
Yeah.
In a retrospective when part 2 comes out. Now, part 2 is either going to be absolutely terrible and go off somewhere and we're just going to look and go, nah, or else he's going to blow our minds.
Yeah.
It's really going to be one of the two and conclude the story. But then it'll be good to look back at part 1 as the precursor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember watching this the first time going, visually it looks great. I thought the sound design and the score was phenomenal, but overall I didn't think it'd be rewatchable. And then I watched it again earlier this week on Monday, and that's when I reached out to you. And I was just like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. Like, the second watch, with so much distance between the first and second watch after having read the book, I was really blown away visually. And again, I hadn't seen Lynch's version since I was a kid, so I didn't have that comparison in my mind at all.
You've been spared the TV show, as we just discussed.
I had not watched the series. So.
You've been spared that pain. So, if anything else, you can go, at least it wasn't that.
Yeah, hey Chris, thanks for tuning in, man. I'm gonna have to watch that just so I can have the feeling of it, just so I can have that
Yeah,
in some
it's a
like
really.
mental language. And we should probably review David Lynch's too, just for fun,
Mhm.
because again, I was a kid
It's
when I
not
watched
even
it.
nostalgia. It's just a genuinely enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I remember the pussy version of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, and I was just like with the pustules and stuff, and it super grossed me out.
But once again, we didn't get the. We got a bit of a characteristic like the Atreides, the noble, but we
Hmm.
didn't get House Harkonnen.
Yeah,
And
they
the fact that
really played
they're
that
they're
down.
enhanced hedonists. That's their bloodline,
Hmm.
and each house has a trait, and that's their whole thing. But this, what does he do? He eats a big dinner. You don't really
Yeah,
get
he's
that
just
aspect.
gluttony.
And the two nephews, I'm worried about Alfred, if I'm
Hmm.
honest. I've seen the trailer and I've seen him. He looks like a weird CGI monster thing.
Yeah, I actually really like that actor. I He did look strange, and the direction they took House Harkonnen in this film was dramatically different than the book. I
Yeah,
mean, they're supposed to be redheaded, and they're all supposed to be like sort of like visceral and brutal. In this, I
but
feel like they
also
got.
charming. They've got a massive charm to them, which is what makes them. Is why they've been able to court the emperor. That's why they held Arrakis for so long, and that aspect, and even David Lynch's, it's hinted at, but it's left out.
Mhm.
Um, and also, I'm back to the mall being red. There's a reason for that because the Bene Gesserit have molded these houses. It's all about genetic lines and creating all the lead to the Huzat Haderach.
Yeah.
Because the Haderach's right, fucking I can nearly speak. That's why they're homogenous, genetically. There's a reason for it. It's all part of a game being played.
Yeah.
And Jessica obviously screws that up because she falls in love with Leto.
Hmm. I want to get into characters in just a
Mm-hmm.
second because I I really thought some of the characters in this story, the way he changed them, made them better characters. Um, and it also made me a little bit worried about part two with one of them. So we'll get into that in just a second. The music with Hans Zimmer, I thought it was amazing. And I love the use of bagpipes. I pretend like the Scots had some sort of, creation aspect of the bagpipes and ownership over it, but they really don't. It comes from Middle East, and it's always been like, in every culture. So I loved the use of it in this because it just felt like that much more imperial, like bigger and grander. Just when they first land on Arrakis and they're marching out with that piper in front, it just, for whatever reason, I mean, some people hate bagpipes. I love them, and so it really worked for me. But Hans Zimmer is a
The
huge
problem with
Dune fan.
bagpipes is 90% of the time they're attached to an idiot. I did it by
Maybe,
the
I
time
don't
in
know that.
ceremonial duties with bugles, pipes, and drums.
Oh, really?
Pipers are, God, there's something else.
I grew up, one of my mom's students, she was a high school teacher for a number of years. One of her students was in the Utah Scots pipe band. And so I like hung out with him a lot, listening to pipes and just started talking about Utah Scots and stuff. But his dad was like into making little lead miniatures for role playing games. And so I also hung out with him just so I could like play with all these twisted little role playing game minis. But anyway, like Hans Zimmer ended up going to the Utah desert just to sort of get the vibe of the desert and sounds, and recorded tons of stuff. And he sort of used that as an inspirational jump off point. And I love that both Denis and Hans Zimmer, the two people who make the biggest impact on this film, are incredible fans of the source material, and they cared so much to really steep themselves in it more than anything else. Like Dennis put this off so that he could finish some other projects because he just wanted to focus on this for a long time. And I respect that so much. Nowadays we get directors who are assigned to projects who don't give a shit about the source material and end up completely changing them to suit whatever modern whatever.
Yeah, it said that directors now are cast rather than hired.
Right.
No, they're almost cast like an actor, and I think that's part of because the Hollywood star has been dead for a long time, and I think as film fans we've stopped looking at the actors. They're just the meat puppets, you put in front of the screen. And we've started to look at the directors, and then somehow Hollywood twigged on that, so they started casting the directors instead. No, because you're like, what are you doing? Yeah, this could have been really offensive in terms of just, oh, use like this thing, we hate you,
Mhm.
like every other franchise, you just feel the urine hitting the screen as you watch it in the cinema,
You can smell it.
we hate you. It's like, okay, right.
Like, well, you
Um,
could have made it good.
no, you don't get that with
Yeah.
this. Um, one character was race and gender swap because they have to, and there was no reason because there's loads of diverse cast in this, but you have to do that once stick it to you, stick it to those fans.
Yeah, was that the doctor?
Yeah, the Imperial Arbiter.
Yeah, so that was Sharon Duncan Brewster, Dr.
Yeah.
Liet Kynes. They changed her up. Yeah, and that was a little bit strange. I'm not sure why. I mean, I thought she did a good enough
It's a
job for what
requirement.
she
It's a
was.
box ticking exercise in Hollywood. You don't get if you don't change at least one character, you don't get to make a movie. That's just the way it is.
So
I mean,
I
that's
think this
why
is a good
most
jumping
people
off point for
don't go
the.
to see movies because they're sick of it.
Yeah. How about the change they made with Chani? Because she is.
I don't like that actress.
Yeah, she was like in Spider-Man or something like that.
Oh god, she is a wooden plank.
Well, they changed her because she's much intentionally. Dennis rewrote her to be more, and all the females in this entire series. In his film, he wanted to heighten, give them more empowerment, give them more of a position of authority over their own lives. And I think with the Bene Gesserits, it works because it's them. And so, of course, and Jessica, of course, because she literally goes against them anyway. So I like those changes. But her character, she's supposed to be going along with Paul the whole time, supporting him. And in the trailer for part 2, she's like, he's not the Messiah. What are we doing? But the Fremen were brainwashed by the Bene Gesserits for generations to believe in the Messiah's coming. And she bought into that in the novel. And so what do you think about that change?
I don't like this, and this is where it sort of takes away the magic. There's a cynical aspect to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, oh, we've planted this, and yeah, we know that, but they've taken away the actual biological computer engineering, and that's the magic of this universe.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying it's been glossed over. So it just comes from an almost cynical 21st century flat, the manipulating, and that's why I can't fully get on board with it.
Okay.
Because there is an almost magical mysticism, but that's what I said. It's a combination between religion, all the aspects of religion, and science, but science going a completely different direction because we've been through, and that's why we don't get any of that at all in this movie.
Yeah.
Where at least we got a hint of it, and I know it was an old movie and it was still cheesy, but David Lynch's one, you got those little Easter eggs dropped in that there's more to this universe. Mm-hmm. And there's more play than just what the human characters are, just chess pieces on a board.
Yeah.
This has that bit of cynical aspect to it, and that actress can only act sarky, femboss. That's its only role it can play. So of course they can't do anything else with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same as Big Dumb Momoa. You put Big Dumb Momoa in this. And he's just
Yeah, Duncan Idaho is a character that I thought was so well written and so exciting. I actually enjoyed his portrayal, but I like Momoa. So it's not like Momoa is playing Duncan Idaho. Momoa is playing Momoa.
Yeah, it's just that's what it is. And I just love there was a particular scene where he's just getting off the ship and he's been testing out trying to get it, and we're going to get the helmet reveal, and that's old school Hollywood thinking that you're still excited about this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, we've seen him in the trailer, we know it's him.
Yeah.
So, helmet reveal, Momoa.
Yeah, I actually really loved his death scene. I thought his fighting with them and the way that they actually made the different fighting techniques for the stuntmen and stuff work, I thought was brilliant. The mechanics of it, I thought was stellar. Seeing actors not playing characters but playing themselves seems to be like a modern. I mean, you always had it back in the day. What's a good example? Christopher Walken. Stallone.
Let's always bring up when you talk about wooden arse characters that can't do anything apart from themselves. When Stallone butchered Judge Dredd, that is the most unforgivable crime in cinema history.
That's that's kind of his. That's all he's got. He did a comedic role once called Oscar, which the film itself is pretty
Stuff in my mouth,
forgettable,
shoot.
but it's still him. Like it's supposed to be a period comedy piece, and it's still Stallone. It's still Rocky.
But thankfully, we've had enough. There's been enough balance with movies, if that makes sense. So yeah, you've had the blockbuster, you've had the A-lister turn up. That's a Stallone movie, that's a Schwarzenegger movie. People go to see it, but we've always had enough variety of movies.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, it's just the standard. It's these wooden planks turn up and teeter on the screen, and that's why I can't get invested.
What did you think about Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides?
I liked him. Honestly, he's young, he's inexperienced, but I don't understand. He's been trained, and you know, what I mean, he's a duke's son. He's got tutors every day, so there's a bit of wishy-washiness about him that should not be there, and he should have been a wee bit better built, considering the fact he trains every day in combat.
Right.
Had a bit more
physicality.
I know they're maybe trying to get him buffed up for the next one or what, but he should have had a bit more definition about him for someone that trains every day.
Yeah, especially by like the best in the galaxy, like Gurney Halleck. Like he's known all across, I don't know what the scale is, the universe will say, as being like one of the best warriors. What's that?
It's 1,000 planets.
Oh, okay.
The last ride just.
So is it all one solar system?
Just no.
Okay.
It's out because that's the whole point of the Space Melange.
Yeah, you traverse the universe.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the space, it would still be stuck in the solar system, scrabbling about. But it's the Space Melange that opened up interstellar travel. Right. And by the way, there are no aliens in this.
Yeah.
And they're not bring up.
It's very much like the Foundation in that.
Yeah, this is all human, and anything you see is a mutation of humanity. Mm-hmm. And they don't even touch that, like with Dr. Yue.
Yeah.
Like one of the major components of this is the breaking of the Imperial Seal conditioning. Just glossed over.
Yeah.
That's where I'm having an issue with this movie.
I think they had to do that. I should say, let me rephrase that. I think they felt they had to do that to make it approachable for people who don't know Dune. You know what I mean? They had to make it palatable to a wider audience to recoup the amount of money they're putting into it. And so I felt like they felt like they had to dumb it down by not including that stuff.
Version, which is 2 movies, which is complete saga in one 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
I know the original was 2.5 hours long or whatever, but they still managed to condense that down, and they still managed to bring that up. Mm-hmm. They had more time, and they're doing this in 2 parts. That's the sort of thing that you need to be drip feeding into the audience to prepare them, especially if he wants to do Messiah and then maybe do the next trilogy of Children of Dune and Herbert, and carry on.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because
just need to be drip fed now, or else what's going to happen is you're going to get absolutely bombarded. Mm-hmm. Information overload towards the end, like
the monologue.
Came along, rush, and you felt a bit. The end of David Lynch's version, you still felt a bit like, was that it? Hold on, where's the rest? Mm-hmm. Because of the timing, and I'm worried that this is going to go the same way.
It's interesting because sci-fi films used to be made for sci-fi audiences. Like they trusted the audience to be able to pick up on things. Nowadays, it is different because they do they feel like they have to cater to a wider audience rather than the people who love the source material. And by doing that, they then almost, in some cases, ostracize the audience that loves that thing.
Yeah, that's something I've talked about in my channel. These escalating stupid budgets, it has to be money laundering. The stupid amounts of budget they're spending on movies is ridiculous. And this is just bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. Hollywood has become the civil service. It's not a business.
It's the DMV.
It is, if you think about it, they think the money just comes off the trees. They've got the same attitude as a civil servant. They think that they're owed the money. Look at do you remember when directors used to thank fans for watching their movie?
Yeah.
It's watch this movie or else you're a bigot. And you're like, okay, right, fine. That sold me.
Yeah.
That's but that's why Hollywood, we mightn't see it, but we're starting to see the cracks. The mega corporations are crumbling now because they're running out of venture capital, and it's all starting to like fall apart because people are turning away. And it's movies like this, they're just generic. They're for everybody, but for nobody.
I mean, in this particular case, I think it spans the gap of being for the fan base and for everyone else pretty well. Like, I enjoy this infinitely
Like I
more
didn't
than you
hate it.
did.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, absolutely hate this movie."
Yeah,
But I've watched it the grand total of 3 times, and honestly, maybe after part two comes out, and I'll do a reflection on it.
right.
It's not one I'll like. If I had the choice between this or David Lynch's, I know what ones I know what to have fun with.
Oh wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I gotta
Even
rewatch
though
that
it's
now.
dated, even though it's incomplete, even though it's all squished into one.
Hmm.
I'm never putting a TV series on again.
I vow.
That's silly.
Never.
Uh,
So that I mean, I thought for the most part, the cast actors did a pretty good job. I think Jessica, Lady Jessica, for me was a standout. I
I liked
thought,
her. Yes, Rebecca Ferguson played her.
yeah. Oh God, I think she is so wonderful. Um, I think the way that she approached the the fear and respect of the Bene Gesserit organization she's a part of was brilliant, and then the terror of going against them and the potential repercussions of that is just painted on her face the whole time. Like when she brings Paul to the mother, and she's terrified that he's not going to be the one and he's going to be murdered right there, like her son that she dotes over, his whole life. And I felt that fear in her. I just thought she did so well. Was there an actor that really stood out to you in this that you just thought really landed it?
What's his face that played Gurney Halleck? What do you call him?
Gurney Hell. Oh yeah, Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin. Yeah, I liked him, and I liked God, the one who played Duke Leto as well. He played somebody else. And I
Isaac.
did not. Hmm?
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, but who did he play before? Like,
Well,
your
he did Star Wars. He did a really great sci-fi
oh,
film.
what's his face? Poe Dameron, didn't he
Yeah.
play? Right, I did not put those two characters together,
That's good. That's great.
and that's what I look for.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying. When you see all these wooden planks come on, they're the actor. When you see someone like him, and you don't recognize him because he's the character,
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, oh, you're good. I'll keep up to date with you. And that's something about an actor that I feels went missing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not enough Gary Oldman's about. There's not enough. What do you call him? Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Before he's become this generic thing now, but at the start he just
Oh, he's
morphed into.
great. I still think he has some kind of modern
He's
shitty
got a
roles, but
yeah, it's his roles. It's kind of yeah.
his history of filmmaking is just transformational. He's great.
You don't recognize him from one role to the next, and that's
Yeah.
what I. But that's what you want. You don't want to see the actors.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to go and you want to see the story, and you want to see the characters.
Hmm.
And then what you want to do is thank the actors for their portrayal afterwards and show your appreciation.
100%. I thought Stellan Skarsgård did an equally good job with Baron Harkonnen. Like, I didn't see him until I looked afterward. I was just like, who the hell is that? This guy is great. I thought the fear, the presence, I should say, the gravity of the character came through this version of the character came through really well on screen. Especially in that scene between him and Duke Leto, when the Duke is like ready to break down that tooth and release the gas out of his mouth, the poisonous gas to kill everyone. Like, I thought that scene was great. Just the fear and the tension and getting super close. I don't know. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a bit of a letdown that Piter, the Mentat for House Harkonnen, he has a bigger role in the book than he did
Yeah.
in this film.
Well, sure. His whole what was it? I released my mind. I set my mind in motion. His whole litanies and the mentat litanies, and you're not even going into the fact there's two
Not at all.
mentats
They're not even addressed
opposing each other
at all.
of the same order, but they're attached to the houses, but they're their own order as well.
Hmm.
And you don't get any of that. That's where my frustration with this movie. You don't get any of that, and that's what needs to be drip fed in to prepare the audience. If this is his plan
Well,
to go
especially
and
also
do
the space
trilogy,
alien. Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't even see the space. And plus, there's a conversation between the Spacing Guild and the Emperor, because it's not actually the Emperor who wants rid of. Uh, yes, he's jealous of House Atreides, but he's got other tools in his basket than wiping them out. It's the Spacing Guild that wants rid of Paul Atreides because they see the future.
Well, I didn't
Because
know that.
yeah, it's a Spacing Guild because he is going he's going to take away their control of space.
Well, yeah, in the novel,
and
that's what it
that's what
eventually comes
they're
down.
seeing this. And
Yeah.
once again, you're not getting this whole the idea of presidents, future sight, preborn, or even the Bene Gesserit, that they in fact possess each other throughout the lineage, and each lineage that they've created possess each other, and that we're getting none of that aspect,
Yeah,
which is
that's
the
the
fascinating
coolest.
aspect of the story.
The coolest part of the Bene Gesserits is the fact that they can see through their chromosomal history all the way back to Earth. Like, I thought that was so fascinating in the novel, and that's why they're so terrified about Paul, like, unlocking that, because it takes an extra chromosome to be a man. Everything's default female, and so the Bene Gesserits have no connection to the full scope of the DNA chromosomal histories that he does, and that's why they're so terrified of him.
They're
I thought it was
terrified, but
great.
also Jessica kicked it off early,
Yeah, he's like a
and that's
rogue
the
element.
thing. They have been planning for this is centuries, millennia of planning, and then Jessica decides, oh, I'm gonna have a boy
Hmm.
because I love my Duke.
Yeah,
And they make this, and I think this is where they make it overly political, as in the politics of Dune, not 21st
yeah.
century politics, but this is where they make it over political. She's a, why wouldn't I bear him? That wasn't her motivation.
Hmm.
Her motivation was she fell in love with the Duke and lost her. You know what happens? Your flipping hormones go out the window, and your heart flutters and your brain shuts down.
Yeah.
And her human side overrid her Bene Gesserit side. And it was those two conflicting moments, which they played at a bit, but we never really got it.
Yeah. Well, and they never even played the idea that the Bene Gesserits can change the sex of the baby in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have control over their entire biological bodies. And that's a huge part of the book, which was never addressed at all, as far as I
Now,
could remember in the film.
what I'm hoping is when Jessica goes to Siege to Bar and she meets the Reverend Mother, and then she goes to take her place. Spoilers anyway, if you're.
Yeah.
But that's. I'm hoping there's going to be a conversation, a dialogue, and an exploration,
There has
and
to.
that's where we start getting this, because see if Villeneuve just does the same for part 2 as he does for this. This is just going to be dead in the water,
Yeah.
because it'll be a June light.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole point of the ending of the first book, Dune, is like, it involves the Space Guild, which they didn't bring up very much at all. It involves the Emperor, which they didn't bring up very much at all. It involves the Bene Gesserits, which they only barely lightly dusted on. And the fact that Paul is part Harkonnen, so is Jessica, and she had no
Jessica
idea.
is actually Jessica's Vladimir's
daughter, yeah, like
that they hid away.
crazy. There was never that conversation, which I was just waiting for.
They
And
wanted to
Jessica's
marry.
pregnant.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they want to marry Jessica. What they want to do was marry Jessica's daughter to Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can get the banjos out. Ding, 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 ding.
But then at least
Royalty
they would have total
marriage.
control over the prophet if they did that, so they could still maintain their power. I just there's so much of this, like the whole fact that she's pregnant and does have a female child in her womb during this entire film is never brought up, but she's a huge part of the second story
Yeah,
that he's going to be
Alia,
telling. And there's a huge time jump that like 2-3 years that jumps between him being with the Fremen and then him like revolting, because his sister, Jessica's daughter, is like a toddler or like a young girl.
yeah, she's 4 when it all kicks off.
So it's like a 4-year gap. Like, it's huge.
But she's not a toddler though.
What do you mean?
She's preborn.
Right.
So
And
she's
she has
actually-
all the power. Yeah.
She's a fully fledged, and this is where we're not. So when this happens in part 2, everyone's going to go, "What?"
Yeah.
Because
100%.
this is where, and do you understand my frustration now?
Yeah.
Why I'm like going, no, this should have been more of a setup, not just a generic sci-fi movie that there's a reason why this universe is beloved, and there's a reason why it's stood the test of time and why people still pick it up today.
Yeah.
And it's not just feudal people fighting the chosen one save the day. It's not that. There has to be more to have people invested. And to me, it should have been a bit more, right, okay, let's drop a wee bit in here, drop a bit in there, get people ready for when part two really delves into this. And it didn't. It just made it human-centric, just storyline, point A to point B, and all about the external conflict.
Yeah.
And not the behind-the-scenes conflict.
Yeah.
And you need to know the behind-the-scenes conflict, because this just looks petty. If you look at the story of Dune at a superficial level,
yeah,
it's just a petty barons. Oh, Mr. Emperor gets jealous because people like Dookie Boy, so they want to wipe out Dookie Boy, and then Dookie Boy's son takes revenge.
Yeah.
If you look at it at that level, it's not a very inspiring story, is it?
No, it's not.
It's because that's not the story. That's just what's played out. They're the chess pieces moving across the board. What Dune did so well is that they let you know that there's people shout. There's two players playing the chessboard, but then there's people whispering in the ears of the two players, and then there's people maybe covering the board a bit slightly for the other player while another sneaky move happens, an extra piece gets put on, and then the game starts again. That was the beauty of the book, and it's the beauty of the story, and it's crazy that an 80s movie managed to encompass this and give you those hints that you then wanted to go and pick up the book, you wanted to read it, you wanted to explore the universe more.
I wonder if
this has a danger of being forgotten.
Yeah, I mean the second movie either has a lot of heavy lifting to do, or it's just going to, like you said before, it's going to be like a tamped down version of the tale, the book. Because if they don't get into that, the real meat of the various factions working sometimes in alliance with and then sometimes against each of the houses, then you're just sanitizing an otherwise potentially really great storytelling aspect of Dune, like what makes it Dune.
I've said this 100 times, and I'm sick of repeating it times, but it's storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't cost money. Tell a good story with good dialogue and good writing, and then you'll find yourself not having to focus and spending. What did this movie cost?
It ended up costing 1.6 or 165 million.
Yeah, so you're spending 165 million on effects and relying on the effects to carry the movie through and it looking pretty. But that's not the compelling aspect. The compelling aspect is the story within the story within the story and the threads, and you want to put them on those threads and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. That's the whole beauty of the Dune saga. And even when we get to God Emperor Dune? Or Heretics comes after God Emperor, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
know. But when we get to the final scene, which I'll not spoil, but when we get to the final scene, with all we think, you're still going, what? What's next? And it's supposed to be the conclusion of not short books, by the way. These are all like fun. Your desk will wobble a bit when you settle these books down on them.
Yeah,
they're heavy books, a lot of lore.
Yeah, especially the first one. I think Messiah is only like 350 or something like that pages.
But then when we go into Children of Dune, Messiah is like a little interlude of what happens directly after part 2. But then it's setting up. I don't want to spoil it, but Paul Atreides is on a journey, and there's a journey he's being put along, and he doesn't want to take it, and it's his conflict of, right, I see where this is going, I don't want to go here.
Well, that's what was so important about setting it up in this.
We got a hint in the tent.
Yeah, he started having those flashing visions, but I don't think it was enough. I think because it's supposed to be something that has tormented him his whole life. All these visions, and then he starts realizing what the visions actually portend, and he's like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want this jihad that's coming. Like, I have to stop, I have to change my behavior in order to prevent this. And it's his acceptance that he can't change it that in the end of the book really makes it an interesting thing, making you go, oh shit, what's coming next? Because That's what I liked about
I just
Paul
say,
in the book.
without spoiling, keep in mind the golden path.
I don't know that reference.
You will, but if you're going to carry on, just it's the golden path.
Okay.
Okay, that's where all this conflict is heading down, and the book's setting it up, and you'll start to see more of the Messiah. But definitely, when you get the Children of Dune, that's where that's where this is about. Paul thinks he's going up, but this is it's so hard not to.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to get at this. I think we'll have a long discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe in the middle of next year.
Well, I wanted to talk about Frank Herbert just for a second, because did he have that full scope in his head when he was writing this, or did he go book to book? Like, do you know? I don't know.
I don't myself.
I know there's like tons of like documentaries and stuff about him, so I just didn't know whether.
Oh yeah, but that's all. That's secondhand. I don't know. I think if you're writing, you have a
like he had to have a generic idea of where he.
But sometimes the idea takes over, and it just goes out. And some writers manage it well, others don't. I'll give George R. R. Martin as an example of don't manage their expanding universe well, and it takes over them, and they can't finish it.
Yeah. So I wanted to call out two comments really quick, if I can just jump in here. Chris is saying visually the movie was stunning. It looked more like an alien world than any movie he can recall. And then he asked if the spice was needed to travel outside the solar system. He was curious how they found about it in the first place. Well, there was a whole technological universe before they found the spice.
This is where, and they don't bring this up, this is 10,000 years. They've already been through, and it's all down to the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah.
The war against the thinking machines, and then the creation of the Orange Catholic Bible, and no machine shall be made in the semblance of a man is one of the major tenets of that. So they've had AI. AI's tried to take them over. Omnius, was Skynet of the Dune universe. That war's already happened, and that's how humans got about. But then once that all the ashes settled, that's where human biology, human mechanics, which we don't get any of in this.
Yeah, I had not even thought about that question until he posed it. But that's a huge thing to leave out.
Absolutely.
Because it explains the whole backstory. Like, they did like an information dump at the very beginning talking about the importance of spice, but not why it's important. Like, because we used to be able to travel this way, then there's a huge holy war, and now we can't, so they had to use this as the option, and it completely changed the trajectory of all human experience and birth and, like, genetic diversity, and, like, it changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Never once mentioned.
Yeah, and the point is, the Kwisatz Haderach is a tool of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
It's not that they're afraid, they want to create the tool, but Jessica completely derailed that, and we're really getting no hint of that whatsoever, what these plans are.
Yeah. There's a one throwaway line, I think, when the mother's returning home after testing Paul, and that's it.
Oh, what I will say is she made, she's an English actress, she made a better version of...
Charlotte Rampling.
Helen Moham, she made a better version than the original, the David Lynch version, because the David Lynch version is very twirly mustache, I'm evil witch.
Right.
Where this, she got that aloofness, it's just part of the game. And if this aspect doesn't go out, well, we measure our time in centuries. So we can change course. That was more true to the Bene Gesserit, but we didn't get enough of that.
Yeah. I can't wait for the prequel, because I hope it's going to be good, this series they're doing for HBO. I love the Bene Gesserit as a concept. I think it's the most amazing part of this universe for me. I think it's so cool.
And then you get to meet the Bene Telex.
Yeah.
In future.
I really, there's something about that aspect of this storytelling, that you have access to all of the ancestry through your mind, through the use of the melange. I mean, it's so brilliant. And like, I know Frank Herbert was a big psilocybin fan, and he grew his own mushrooms and stuff, and that feeds into...
He was an ecologicalist, I think.
Yeah, and he was a huge environmentalist. It was just loving the idea of I think it was in Oregon dunes that he like sort of started getting the seeds of this. But I like that aspect of him. Like, he's telling a very interesting story through the use of what seems like is sort of a magical thinking, but is actually pretty connected to our own universe and world. And, when you think about the trajectory that we could go versus the one we have gone, and parallel that with, well, the Dune universe is where we are going, and then they're going to change, through
Yeah.
that war.
It's going through the, you know what I mean? We've gone through that. That's,
Yeah.
we were talking about AI and Skynet and all that kind of stuff. And what do you call that Steven Spielberg one? Artificial.
The what?
The Steven Spielberg movie.
Which I'm not sure.
With Haley Joel Osment in it.
I have no idea. Oh, yeah, the
You know the one I'm
machine
talking
one.
about? Hmm?
Is it AI?
It might have been, yeah, it might have just called it AI, but that this has been explored.
Yeah.
Almost to death. That's, yeah, AI is evil, going to kill us all. But this, from an early, like 1965, he's already said, right, we've been through that.
Yeah.
Where do we go next?
Mm-hmm.
Where does humanity go, and what? And it's all about luck and potential. The blending of science and magic, which is a tricky one.
Yeah.
What is magic? What science hasn't a clue how to describe. And there's still magic in the world, and people forget.
I gotta have you on when I do the Messiah review. I think that would be a very fun conversation too.
Yeah,
Because
but
you know so much more about this world, this universe than I do. I think it's interesting hearing the juxtaposition of opinions and thoughts based on knowledge.
I need to reread it, get it read up again and get myself fresh. I've been trying not to buy all my old books again that I already had. I'm trying to buy new ones. And now I'm finding myself going, no, I need to go back
Some
here.
of the old ones are the best.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
a reason why you can pick this up again and still be fascinated and you miss stuff. It's so vast that you're not going to get it in the first read. You have to go back and go over. But
I'm going to have to reread the book again for sure.
yeah, just the superficial story is not the story.
Yeah.
The jealous duke or jealous emperor of popular duke, and that's not the story. And I think Villeneuve could have done a better job of just, he needs to, or else it's just going to be, like I said, a huge information dump in part 2.
Yeah.
And then people are just going to go, what the hell is this?
Or if he doesn't do the information dump, he's going to have to completely change the story.
And then it's just going to be a bland sci-fi that could have been another generic remake.
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean, I do have a bit of faith in him because I think he does great with science fiction films in the past. I thought what he did with this, focusing on Paul over everything else, was a very palatable way to introduce the world to people who weren't aware of it already. And if he can pull off part 2, this will be an incredible epic that he's set down. If not, I'm not sure how Messiah even goes. Like, how?
I don't think it'll happen. I know it's been greenlit, but
Yeah.
will be one of those movies that'll get delayed year by year by year, never to be, the Hollywood don't like saying they've cancelled something.
Mm-hmm.
So they always say it's been put back, but it's one of those that's never going to happen. Yeah, and I think he's made a rod to beat his own back with this, because what he's done in part 1 then is he's really made himself an uphill climb for part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be challenging.
Yeah, I think so too.
Isn't it March this is coming out?
In 24, I think so. Yeah.
It's right about March time, isn't it? So it's not that far away.
Right around the corner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they brought in linguistic experts to create new languages. I like that they did their best to immerse themselves. If they can pull off this other lore side of it in the second one, I think it's just going to be amazing. But if not, yeah, I mean, we've said it over and over again. It's going to be a rough one. As far as this film on its own merit, what did you like about it?
Right, I liked the portrayal of the Bene Gesserit, not the evil cackling witches, which was in David Lynch's version. I appreciated that. I loved the use of the voice.
Yeah, that was cool.
That, and the fact that she's training him in the weirding way.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see a bit more of that. That's getting down to the meats and bones of it. I like Duke Leto. I like the idea that he was he was portrayed as a stoic, heroic man, which is illegal now in Hollywood. So it was nice to actually see that happening.
Yeah.
I like the Fremen.
Yeah.
I like the Fremen in this. In the David Lynch version, they were generic Hollywood people. This, we've got an idea of a a grounded,
Like a
you know,
culture.
deadly force as well.
Yeah.
Like the scene where the Sardaukar went to busy recapture
Yeah.
Paul Atreides, and they were sitting drinking coffee,
Yeah.
and then
That was a great
gone.
scene.
That's desert power.
Hmm.
I like the sandworms. They've done a good job with the sandworms. Without, obviously technology was limited back in the day,
Yeah.
but these are, you're getting the idea of Shai
Yeah, it's
Hulud.
less tremors, more sandworms. and things.
Hush your mouth. Hush thy mouth. That has been Chris and I have been on a journey, if you don't really know. And we're
I
doing
I
part
do
7.
know, but I can't bring myself to watch him because I was not a fan of that.
Oh dear, you poor fool. You just don't understand.
I
You
don't
don't
understand the
understand the
majesty.
glory of Bert Hugger. Come here.
Yeah, what I loved most about this was I thought the cinematography was stellar. I thought the sound design, the music design was great. I thought that the clothing design, I really loved the Bene Gesserit style and how even the Space Guild, we only got a small little dash look at them, but I thought they looked pretty cool. I liked Harkonnen's look, but it doesn't feel like Harkonnen. It feels like a Cenobite ripoff almost. Like it's not quite Harkonnen enough.
They're not they're hedonistic and they're bombastic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be trouble if they're going to carry on with this story.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So, and we've touched on some things, but what are the highlights that you don't like most about this?
The sort of flat tone and not get into the fantastical. They've left all that out. The meat and bread of this universe.
Yeah.
They've kind of disregarded that.
Yeah.
Some of the actors, yeah, not feeling. At least one of them's gone.
I can't wait for Gurney to come back. That scene in the book where he's like ready to kill Jessica and like they talk him down and he realizes how wrong he was and how he was manipulated. That is going to be such a great scene with Josh Brolin.
Yeah, but if they do it right, where they haven't
Yeah.
given the intrigue, that's what we're missing, the intrigue of this.
Mm-hmm. No one suggested even that Jessica was the one that betrayed them, which is a huge part of the story. And that bothers me. Like, you can't just say, nope, it was the doctor. No, the whole point was no one knew it was the doctor. They thought it was Jessica.
Once again, the conditioning, what it was when Hewitt, the Atreides Mentat, examined. You've seen it before. Once again, you're not getting the whole idea of biological weapons. People are biological weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll become more apparent if this goes on with Meet the Thylax and the Face Dancers. But was it the Imperial Scene of Conditioning? Dr. Huey had the black mark, the Imperial Scene of Conditioning. That meant he couldn't be corrupted. He couldn't act against his ward. When he's placed in
I
the
didn't know that. I didn't even get that from the
He
book.
should have told you that was the whole fucking crux of the matter. Is why they didn't disregard Huey. Mm-hmm. Because he couldn't have been turned, he couldn't have been corrupted because he had the Imperial Seal of Conditioning.
I don't remember that from the book. Was that in Dune?
Yes. Because it's Harkonnens that by... And once again, this is where we don't see the Harkonnens. They just see them as, marauding children almost. Mm-hmm. Where Vladimir Harkonnen is a clever, devious, somebody not to mess with. And not just because of physical strength or because of barbarity. No, you wouldn't last 5 minutes in an empire. Why would you give the barbarians your most valuable resource and have them manage it?
Yeah.
Part of an entire empire? You wouldn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Harkonnens were almost relegated to less than the Sardaukar. I mean, the Sardaukar are just a weapon, a blunt instrument.
Yeah, but they're like the elite of the elite, supposedly.
Yeah. So, that's all they are, is a tool, but you wouldn't... Someone like Vladimir Harkonnen wouldn't have got control of Arrakis if he wasn't a political player.
Yeah.
Must none of this.
Yeah, I actually thought the book portrayal of them...
Over 2 hours, so tell me to shut up whenever you're ready, because
yeah.
level of frustration I've got, because it's purely from a storytelling aspect, they just missed the
Yeah.
he missed the beat, and it sounds like he didn't have the opportunity, and he didn't have bad examples to go, I'll not do that.
I've got to read some interviews because I wonder why he played those aspects down that we've been talking about. There has to be a reason in his head as a screenwriter and as a director, you know, because this is his baby and he loves Dune purportedly. So
Yeah, but don't forget, he's part of the Hollywood machine, and it's not, directors aren't directors anymore. Movies are
I'll
made
have
by
to look more
committee.
into it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what?
And they'll never tell you, because until, while he's still got another movie and an income, you know what I mean? You don't slag off your boss to the competition, do you? Openly,
Right.
when you've still got a job, you know, and I think we'll have to now remember and view it from that lens, that these are just people with jobs trying to get more work, and they're in a gig economy. You know, it's a hyper-inflated gig economy, you know, but it's still that. If you're an Uber driver, you're not going to slag off Uber openly while working for them, relying on the next job. You know, it's really that basic.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let me go over what I didn't like about this, and then we'll drop to our ratings here. I thought the history of everything we've been talking about, the depth of the universe that's presented in the novel, isn't here. It feels like he seeded, not seeded. He gave us those flashes, those glimpses, like when they were running for their lives in Dune, but it wasn't enough for me, and so I just feel like Paul himself is a slightly different character, and I want the Paul at this point where he's like, "Look, I'm a seed. I'm not the Messiah that you think I am." Talking to Jessica's mom, like, "We're Harkonnen too. Don't you see that? Like, you're pregnant." And she's like, "What? I didn't tell anyone that." Like, that version of Paul is the one I really appreciated from the novel, and I didn't really feel like we got enough of it in this. We got a little, and I thought Timothy Chalamet did a great job, but I think the writing should have delved
It's not his
deeper.
fault.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not his fault. He's working
He
with
did the
what he's
job that
got.
was presented. So that's it. But I really loved this film. I thought it was just fantastic. What's your rating of this film?
I give it a 3, and I give it a begrudging 3, because at the end of the day, it's not offensive. It's
Yeah,
an attempt to tell, like, as a standalone science fiction story, it's a decent watch.
yeah,
And it's one you can stick on again, and you're not going, oh my god, and switching off.
mm-hmm.
You can actually go, oh right, this is cool, but it's not Dune.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope it becomes Dune,
Mhm.
but it's just not.
I dig it because I didn't know anything about Dune, and I only know cursory stuff about Dune after having read the first book, not really understanding the scope of where it goes. And because of that, and it is a visual spectacle, I thought everything about it really was firing from the film, not comparing it to the book, of its own. I think what you just said is perfect. This is a great sci-fi film, maybe not a great Dune film, but I loved watching it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's one that I can't wait to watch again before the
It's
second
Dune
one
adjacent.
comes out. Yeah, it's Dune adjacent. Here's Dune, and it's like right there. In either case, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation, talking about the film Dune Part 1. I can't wait for Part 2 to come out so we can have a conversation about
It'll
that.
be interesting to see how this goes, and
Yeah.
really fascinated to find out.
It's going to be great. And then if you're interested, I'll invite you back for the Dune Messiah review too, so we can just sort of geek out about that story.
Yeah, it'll be cool when you can see me going full nerd.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in live or watching this after the fact. Let us know, what did you think? If you've read Dune and you know about the saga, how do you think this film portrayed Dune as the story overall? And then if you are not familiar with Dune, I'd be interested, did this work for you as just a solid sci-fi film? And do you care about all the stuff that we've been talking about the actual deeper lore and history of the universe of Dune? Or is it enough just to have a fun popcorn spectacle of a film? Let us know in the comments below. As always, remember that evil spelled backwards is live, so get out there. Before that, where can people find you?
People don't want to find me. What do you want to find me for?
Let's say they did.
Well, just say that they did. You might want to look up the Horrific podcast, where I talk about horror stuff, do reviews, narrated fiction, play games terribly, TTRPGs, you name it. If it's anything to do with horror, it's on there. And sometimes this one turns up as well.
Yeah, there is a Dune TTRPG, so do you want to maybe do a one-shot of that?
We could have a mosey on it, yeah.
See what it's like. All right. I saw it and I was like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I'm not sure. So I think that might be fun. Anyway, we'll think about it. Let us know if you guys want to see something like that. Again, stay evil, everyone. That was a weird, spooky.
Derailed yourself.
You know I'm evil because I had a Christ killer shirt. I have to prove it.
Hot topic special.